6:30 at night. Members only YouTube live, Garnet and Old show. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. Ryan has returned. I am happy to be back, Vince. Hurricane Milton, you guys saw the footage. Wasn't fun for Tampa, but here we are.
Here we are. I'm glad to have you back, Ryan. Parker stepped in great last week, and we were able to debut his segment finally. And it went pretty well, I think. And we had a lot of good feedback from people that really enjoyed that. And they also really enjoyed the lead-in that I created. So,
yeah, I saw the show after the fact, after power and internet and cleanup and all that fun stuff was back. But hey, this is a members only show, which means if you're seeing this, you are a YouTube member. So thank you so much for your kind support of the Garnet and Old show. We could not do it without you guys. Vince, we do this every other Thursday, or as best as possible every other Thursday. And we try to cover topics that are either bigger picture or smaller picture than our normal show. I thought it would be fun.
And not always necessarily specifically about Florida State, right? So
yeah,
it's about the passions around college football and the periphery.
And that's what we're going to focus on tonight is the periphery, because this year has been such a weird year in college football. The weirdest part that I've seen, no, aside from us being terrible, is that you're seeing players 3 games in shutting it down for the year and saying I'm going to hold my eligibility and save it for the portal. Essentially, is what they're telling you. They don't say the second part out loud, but we all know that's what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this place where parity is becoming clearly the new norm. Now, one thing I want to disagree with, for those of you that do listen to Jeff Cameron, I think he has a lot of great points on this topic. I listened to a show earlier this week, and he mentioned, he thinks that what's happening in Florida State will become commonplace for some blue blood. I don't think that's true. I think we are a weird, extreme one-off that won't really happen that much to true blue bloods. Though I take him at his point, and this is what I want to talk about first, Vince. The parity in football, there's no cap on how much people can pay to the roster. You can transfer anytime for really any reason.
Yeah, to anywhere, at any time. Yeah.
And there's no holding someone even in an NIL sense to like contractual agreement. You can't like keep them here.
Yep.
So this first became apparent to me like, oh, we got a problem when Vanderbilt beat Alabama at home. And I thought at first, oh, that's fun. College football, this happens every year. You have some no-name team beat a big team. But it's been a few weeks in a row of not only major upsets, but near major upsets.
Yeah, things that you're gonna tell your grandkids about, kind of upsets.
Yeah, it's where normally you would get 1 or 2 a year, and I feel like we've already had about 4 this season.
Yeah.
And it led me to think, where do we go from here? Because maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's more fun for the sport if Vanderbilt, hey, they hit on 1 or 2 guys or 3 guys in the portal, and it helps them bring in some super talented guys, and then Alabama out here straight getting players stolen from them when a new coach comes, and including us, we took a bunch of players. Ohio State took a bunch of players from Alabama, and so they're forced to. Yep. And they're forced to bring in new players there, but who knows how it's going to gel? Clearly, look at Florida State. Who knows how it's going to gel? So I think the new normal is more parity in the league.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. We're not in the normal yet, because eventually there's going to be some guidelines around some of this stuff. There has to be, because you cannot expect, a college coaching staff to have to revamp roster, not even every year anymore, like a couple times a year, because you've got guys, leaving in the middle of the year or shutting it down, and there's no ramifications around that. Like there's no downside. And it can't continue like that. And I don't believe that it will. The question is though, is when are those guardrails going to be put in, and what are those guardrails going to be? So, for example, um, it can't we cannot get to a point where everybody just spends as much money as they can, right? There has to be some kind of guidance, luxury taxes and caps and things like that. There That has to happen. And you also, even though the NIL game is not really quote unquote pay for play, like that's what it's going to have to be, right?
Hmm.
because because you cannot allocate funds to someone and then not show up to the job, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Ryan, imagine you go into work
Hmm. Hmm.
and you're like, you know what? I'm just not feeling it this season, this year. I'm gonna opt out for a while. But all the money you've already paid me, or you have already agreed to pay me, I'm still going to make that money. And in the meantime, I may or may not keep my body in shape. I may or may not be working out. I may or may not be looking at other options that are out there, right? The whole tampering thing is out of control. So you those kind of guidelines have to be put in place at
Yeah.
that point. And when we have that, then I think we can start settling into the new normal, whatever that normal is going to
Sure.
be. I can tell you right now, Ryan, I don't like the new normal that it's going to be because, Florida State goes 13-1 and, has a great season. And then, we have what we have going on here this season. Like that kind of parity and that kind of swing, um, because of what people are allowed to do right now is I can't deal with that.
So what's interesting, Vince, is can you, in your opinion, let's say you put a cap in place, right? Which, by the way, my audio in my own ears fixed now, so we're good.
Okay,
Um,
good. I saw your text, but I didn't want to chime in yet.
couldn't you have a cap while still allowing unlimited transfers? And because you could still see a situation in which you had a cap, let's say 10 million, 15 million, I don't know what it would be, where you go out and pay DJU for $1 million to come play at Florida State, and that's a big part of your cap, and he could still bounce. Now that would go back against your cap. You would get that money back in an ideal situation, but it still doesn't solve the issue of players bouncing around. So I don't think, in my opinion, you can have a cap situation unless you also put some rules around minimum lengths of agreements, meaning if you do an NIL deal, period, it has to be 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there has to be some kind of commitment
Hmm.
from the players' perspective, right? Because we have gone from what it used to be, which was, the players had no control at all.
Yeah.
They were pretty much prisoners to wherever they signed their letter. To now, it's like they have all the control,
Yep.
right? So they have to come up with a middle ground where you know you sign on and the you're expected to uh, participate and perform, for whatever that base level of money is going to be. Maybe there are incentives though on top of that,
Yeah.
right? Maybe for players. We make the playoffs, and you make second team all conference. There's an extra, $20,000 in it for you. I mean, I don't know, but not having them have any skin in the game as far as like, where I have to fulfill my agreement is what is the reason why we have what we have here, which is guys just leaving their teams and a
Yeah.
third away through the season.
One point I think we're in a disagreement on, and I'm surprised, is yes, it sucks for Florida State right now. We're terrible. I kind of like the idea that that's possible, and I'll tell you why. In the comparison with the NFL, it's possible in a year. In a year, see the Miami Dolphins right now, right? For a team who was considered by many to be potentially NFL playoff bound or whatever, to fall off a cliff. Now, here's the thing: although you had that at all times, the threat of that in the NFL, it's widespread. That's why you end up with so many teams vying for the last playoff spots, and it's new teams every year. But what's interesting is, despite everyone having to play by the same rules in the NFL and having that parity, you still have a New England Patriots come about for 20 years, and the system and the quarterback. Now, the quarterback would have to change at minimum every 3 to 4 years, but there are teams that have cycled through quarterbacks, and they might have taken a little bit of a dip, but then the culture and the system is in place where they can minimize the impact of that and they can bounce back quick. I look at Andy Reid. He was winning before Patrick Mahomes. Uh, he's won everywhere he's gone with whatever quarterback he's had. So that's where I get concerned long term, Vince, right now. Now, it could be a prisoner of the moment situation. That's where I get concerned about Mike Norvell, because how do you get it this wrong? And when I'm thinking big picture of college football, it's great. You can put all these limits in place, Vince. Let's say we had that limit this year. I still think he would have gone out and gotten DJU. I still think he would have evaluated his current roster, saying he thought it was the best offensive line they've ever had. It wouldn't have changed his evaluation of what's on the roster. So I don't know that our record would be that much different if the rules were in place exactly like we're describing.
Yeah, I'm not blaming this season on, the state that the game is in. That's not it at all. I'm just saying that there's not you have to have some level of consistency and some level of knowns when you're a staff.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, who knows why they made the decisions that they made. You know, most of them were poor. They were poor decisions. But people being able to outspend you is not a new thing, right? Some of that is above board now, but there has to be some kind of coming back to the balance of that, because I don't want the college game to become the pro game. I don't want that. I watch football on Sundays as a kind of a diversion, like it's in the background.
Yeah.
I have no passion for it. I don't want the college game to be that. And I think the more so say, Florida State's going through the doldrums here, and because of that, their record is going to be pretty crappy. If this was the pro game, they would have a much higher draft pick.
Yeah, you don't get that in college.
You don't get that in college.
Wouldn't that be fun though if they did? If they said made tiers of transfers, like a 5-star transfer, you could get if you're a terrible team, you could. It costs like less money to get them. That'd be great. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, there's such an inherent difference between the games, between the college game and the pro game, that the thing that's trying to happen in the college game, because of the inherent differences on talent acquisition and that kind of thing, they cannot be the same.
Yeah,
they cannot be the same. So I think in any normal year, you wouldn't have as wild a swing as what Florida State is going through, because it's exacerbated by the ridiculous, decisions made on the bodies that they brought in.
I guess you could say if the rules had been in place this whole time, there wouldn't have been this reliance on the portal. But at the same time, that's what saved Mike Norvell in turning this thing around quick. So it's like either get – I think this is going to be the case going forward, Vince. You either get if you're a team that focuses and heavily on the transfer portal as a major means for talent acquisition versus like maybe 70-30 to the traditional recruiting, I think you with those teams will see consistent hits and horrible misses. Now, what's interesting about this is going forward, and what I've noticed already this year, it's really, really interesting stuff. Every week has been fascinating this year in college football. Every week. What you're noticing is the teams that have good players, but not elite players. So they're not in threat of leaving. Vandy isn't gonna bleed a bunch of players in the middle of the season because those players individually maybe aren't 5 stars or evaluated as super high ranks. So Ohio State's not coming knocking down their door, right? Those teams who those players on the rosters might feel like they don't have that option to bounce to this magical land stick around, and then those becomes the camaraderie teams that you want to root for because they're stick together. They've been here, third year, junior,
Sure.
seniors, loaded seniors all over the place. And that's where I think the positives of this system. There are negatives of the current way it's set up, for sure. I think there's more negatives than positives. But the positives are you're not going to get Alabama winning the title every year anymore. It's going to be, I really truly believe this, Vince. I think in the next 5-10 years, I'd be surprised if anyone wins back-to-backs or even close to anymore.
Yeah.
And that part is fun because say what you will about the NFL, the Jaguars almost made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, a couple years back. Any team in the NFL can believe at the beginning of the year, unless you're like the Jets or something, that you have a shot. And they do. And that's a fun part. Now, it could come crashing down and hit you in the face real quick. But isn't that a positive?
I think so. I don't want to pretend, or I don't want it to come across like, I want only the quote unquote blue bloods to run the show. That's not what I mean at all.
Right.
There are many things about the college game that are being kind of, washed over and, dominating, dynasties. I don't necessarily care for them in the college game, but you had the possibilities of that. It's rare in the pros that you could get that. It's really rare. But the possibilities of that, I think, are part of what makes the college game, at least historically, something people always wanted to talk about and always wanted to, to dive into the stats of and those kind of things. Let me ask you a question, Ryan, because I put this in the description as well. I don't know too much about what's going on here, but what do you make of the whole Big Ten and SEC playing footsie with a scheduling agreement?
I think it's good. Because I think both of them recognize they want to compete for sure. I mean, they do. They might not be dicks to each other, but they want to compete. Or else they wouldn't be going and grabbing all these teams. But I think they realize that the real answer to the future of television rights is you should be able to subscribe someday, maybe 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, to a single equivalent of Sunday ticket for college football and get every game that you care about to watch. If Vince, if I was right now given an opportunity to spend $400 for the season for an app and it had every ACC, Big Ten, and SEC game, I'm doing that 100 times over because I know I can watch every game that's on there without having to figure out, is it on ESPN Plus? Is it on ABC? Is it on this channel? Like, I think that's what both of these conferences see, Vince, is that there has to be cross-pollinating because at some point they're going to make a digital rights deal of some sort together in which ESPN can stream all these games, including Big Ten games, and, Fox can stream all these games plus these other SEC games. I think that's where we're headed, where you're going to be able to purchase a college football package. And I think this is in preparation for that.
Yeah, it's another opportunity for them to squeeze people,
Yeah,
to squeeze people out. So
we need to get out.
for me, yeah, and right now, Florida State is on the out. The teams that are would be considered to be blue blood teams that are not in one of those two leagues are on the out,
Yep.
and um, so you're not going to. I mean, we're already seeing it this year.
Right.
Once ESPN took over the SEC stuff from CBS, how many real good primetime slots has the ACC gotten this year? Not many.
Unfortunately, Florida State has gotten pretty much all of them.
Well, I mean, I get that, but there's been a couple
Yeah,
Saturdays
I know
where,
what
where the whole trio, the whole lineup was all SEC games, and they're not making any bones. They're not trying to hide it. I
yeah.
mean, who was the reporter? Was it Dinich again lately? Like yesterday said, um, it might be in a few weeks the committee may look back on this
On
Vandy loss
Alabama, yeah.
as a great loss. What are we even
Well,
talking
that's
about?
as I know, Heather Dinich is. Well, I'm going to be friendly, but
Yeah, I know, but she has an audience.
does she? I
She
don't know.
does.
I see this as a natural progression of where we already knew this was going, which is there's going to be two power conferences. We need to get out. Nothing's changed in that, and
I know.
I think we're going to have good things happen. Pretty much after the season happens.
But I'm going to take off my Garnet and Gold glasses here.
Don't take off the Garnet Old ones, though.
No, the old ones have to stay on so I can see.
Yeah.
Um, Florida State's going to get out of the conference. They're going to make it to one of the other two, and that's fine. And we're all going to be happy about that. And then, if the SEC and Big Ten scheduling agreement gets put in place, then we're all, we're not going to cry about it,
Right.
right? 'Cause we're going to get the benefit from it. But I do feel bad about the teams that are not going to be involved in that
For sure. Yeah. I do.
because it's not, then we're talking about a national championship or whatever it is, whatever kind of playoffs, whatever, not being legit in terms of you're not playing the whole field.
Right.
You're only like I'm the big fish in the little pond rather than I'm the national champion, and it's kind of like that already. I get that, but that's just going to make it even more so.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with you. College football is forever transformed already, and I think it's going to continue. That's the brass tacks. Whether we like it or not, it's inevitable. And I think there will always be something to being the school you're from. Not just the city you happen to live in, like the NFL. So I think that's always going to give you that nostalgia, and there's plenty of tradition built up and goodwill, but built up. So I will forever be a fan of college football, but it definitely feels a little less amateur, which I miss those days, but that's long gone now. Well, Vince, we have to jump because we are about to jump on 7 o'clock Garnet and Old show.
That's right.
Members, though, thank you so much for supporting everything that we do on the Garnet and Old show and being members. Hey, let us know if you ever want to chat with us. Just follow us on X and tag us in a post and say, "Hey, this is me." We'll follow you back, and you can message us and DM us. And we look forward to your continued support, and we look forward to continuing to provide excellent content for you. Vince, it's been a pleasure. I will see you in 3 minutes as we hop on the Garnet and Old show.
Looking forward to it, brother.
Go Noles, everyone. Send Chiefs all the damn time. Peace.